Have you ever dated someone who couldn't commit? Everything's going great. The connection is real. But the moment you want to define the relationship, they pull away. They want you, but they don't want a label. They love spending time with you, but they can't promise you the future. People call them players, emotionally unavailable, or commitment-phobes. But psychology says people who can't commit aren't heartless or playing games. They're battling deep fears, unhealed wounds, and beliefs about love that make permanence feel like a trap. Let's break down the real psychology behind people who can't commit. 1. They have an avoidant attachment style. This is the number one reason people struggle with commitment. Psychologists say that people with avoidant attachment crave intimacy but panic when they get too close. They learned early, usually in childhood, that relying on others leads to disappointment or loss of independence. Research shows that avoidant attachment forms when caregivers are emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or dismissive. So these people grow up believing that closeness equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals danger. They want connection, but commitment feels suffocating. The closer you get, the more they retreat. It's not that they don't care about you. It's that their nervous system is wired to see commitment as a threat to their autonomy. And until they heal that attachment wound, they'll keep one foot out the door in every relationship. 2. They're terrified of losing their freedom. For some people, commitment feels like imprisonment. They associate relationships with losing themselves, their hobbies, their friends, their independence. Psychologists call this autonomy anxiety or fear of enmeshment. They've seen relationships where people lose their identity or become trapped in obligations they resent. Research shows that people who highly value independence often resist commitment because they equate it with sacrifice and control. They don't want to answer to anyone. They don't want to compromise their lifestyle. They want the benefits of connection without the perceived constraints of commitment. It's not selfishness. It's a deep-seated belief that love requires giving up who they are, and they're not willing to pay that price. 3. They're still holding onto someone from their past. Sometimes people can't commit because emotionally, they're still attached to an ex. Maybe it ended badly and they never got closure. Maybe they're still hoping that person will come back. Maybe they're comparing everyone to someone they lost. Psychologists call this emotional baggage or unresolved attachment. Even if they're physically with you, their heart is somewhere else. Research shows that people who haven't processed past relationships often sabotage new ones because they're not fully present. They keep you at arm's length because they're saving space for someone who's already gone. It's not fair to you, but it's also not entirely in their control. Until they grieve what they lost and let go, they'll never be able to fully commit to someone new. 4. They're afraid of being hurt again. Many people who can't commit have been deeply hurt before. Betrayal, abandonment, heartbreak. They gave everything to someone and got destroyed. Psychologists say that after relational trauma, people develop protective barriers to prevent being hurt again. Research shows that betrayal trauma creates hypervigilance in future relationships. They're constantly looking for red flags, expecting the worst, and keeping emotional distance as insurance. Commitment feels like handing someone the power to destroy them, and they've already been destroyed once. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect themselves from the pain they know relationships can bring. And until they heal from what broke them, they'll keep running from anything that feels too real. 5. They don't believe relationships last. Some people can't commit because they genuinely don't believe in long-term love. Maybe they watched their parents' marriage fall apart. Maybe every relationship they've seen has ended in divorce, cheating, or resentment. Psychologists call this cynicism about love or relationship pessimism. They think all relationships are temporary, so why commit? Research shows that people who grow up witnessing relationship dysfunction often internalize the belief that love doesn't last. So they protect themselves by never fully investing. Why build something you believe will crumble? Why promise forever when forever doesn't exist? It's not that they don't love you. It's that they don't trust love itself. And that belief keeps them stuck in a cycle of short-term connections that confirm what they already believe. 6, they're waiting for someone better. This one's hard to hear, but it's real. Some people don't commit because they think they can do better. They're keeping their options open, waiting for the perfect person who checks every box. Psychologists call this the paradox of choice, or FOMO, in relationships. With dating apps and endless options, they're always wondering if someone more attractive, more successful, more compatible is just a swipe away. Research shows that an abundance of choices makes people less satisfied and less likely to commit. They're not fully present with you because they're mentally comparing you to hypothetical alternatives. It's shallow, yes, but it's also a symptom of a culture that treats relationships like shopping. And until they realize that perfect doesn't exist, they'll keep chasing illusions and losing real connections. 7, commitment means facing their own issues. Some people avoid commitment because being in a serious relationship forces them to confront their own flaws, insecurities, and unresolved trauma. Casual relationships are easy. You can keep things surface level, but commitment requires vulnerability, honesty, and emotional work. Psychologists say that people who avoid commitment are often avoiding themselves. Research shows that deep relationships act as mirrors, reflecting back the parts of ourselves we don't want to see. Maybe they're dealing with addiction, mental health struggles, or personal failures they're ashamed of. Commitment means letting someone see all of that, and they're not ready to be that exposed. So they keep things casual, keep people at a distance, and keep running from the intimacy that would require them to face who they really are. 8, they've convinced themselves they're not the relationship type. Some people can't commit because they've built an identity around being independent, free-spirited, or non-traditional. Psychologists call this identity commitment, where being uncommitted becomes part of their self-concept. They tell themselves and others that they're just not wired for relationships, that they're happier alone, that monogamy isn't for them. Research shows that people often adopt identities that protect them from the vulnerability of wanting something they're afraid they can't have or maintain. So they convince themselves they don't want commitment, when really, they're just afraid of failing at it. It's easier to reject commitment than to try and potentially fail. And that identity becomes armor that keeps genuine love out. So if you're with someone who can't commit, understand this: it's rarely about you. It's about their wounds, their fears, and their unhealed past. You can be perfect for them and they'll still pull away. Because commitment isn't a logic problem, it's an emotional one. And no amount of love you give will fix what they haven't healed in themselves. You deserve someone who's ready, who's healed enough to choose you fully. And if you're the person who can't commit, know this: running from love doesn't protect you. It isolates you. And at some point you have to ask yourself, am I protecting my heart, or am I building a prison? Because the walls you put up to keep pain out also keep love out. And healing means risking hurt to experience real connection. If you want to understand the psychology behind relationship patterns and how to break them, subscribe now. Because on this channel, we're helping people stop running and start healing.